In past episodes of this show, we have talked about filmmaker and podcaster Kevin Smith's contributions to the comic book industry, namely his run on Green Arrow and briefly mentioning his work on Marvel's Daredevil. Not to mention, he also has his comic shop, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. However, Smith has also launched the careers of a few comic book professionals, albeit inadvertently. In his 2001 film Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the titular duo paid a visit to the Secret Stash, where Brody Bruce, the main protagonist of the film Mallrats, and who in-universe owned the store, informed them about a movie being made about the superhero team based on the two drug peddlers, Bluntman and Chronic. In the background, a customer in the shop could be seen flipping through a book he pulled off the sales rack. The comic in question was a self-published independent title called Battle Pope by writer Robert Kirkman and artist Tony Moore. The sudden appearance in the film helped increase the visibility of the title, which centered around a pope who had lost his way, teaming up with Jesus Christ to save all of mankind. Obviously, this also increased sales and recognition for both Kirkman and Moore, who came to the attention of Image Comics, where they would eventually work on their magnum opuses, and that of course being Fear Agent and the Astounding Wolfman. Or wait, maybe it was The Walking Dead. I'm not sure. The zombie apocalypse wasn't the only idea Kirkman hit on. He also had an idea about a story of a teenage superhero. A teenage superhero with the power of Superman. Except one who just happened to also be the son of Superman. Really? That guy wasn't even in the comics when this thing was published. Anyway, this new character will make a couple of brief appearances in both Noble Causes and another Kirkman work called Tech Jacket, before eventually getting its own ongoing title. And today we're looking at the first volume of that ongoing series. This is Invincible Volume 1, Family Matters. As teenager Mark Grayson prepares to head off to school, his mother Deborah watches the news on TV. The hero Omni-Man, who is in fact Mark's father Nolan, is taking on a giant dragon in Taiwan. Everything appears well in hand, so Mark heads off to school. After school, Mark heads off to work at Burger Mart. When asked to dispose of some garbage, Mark heads out to the dumpster and tosses the bag straight up into the sky. Mark just got his powers. Later, Mark informs his parents over dinner. They're pleased. That night, Mark tries flying for the first time. A couple of weeks later, and Mark is out fighting crime in a homemade costume. Nolan sees his son break up a bank robbery and offers to take Mark in to get fitted for a more proper outfit. The tailor asks Mark about his hero name, and Mark hasn't really given much thought about the topic. Meanwhile, at school, Mark comes to the aid of a bullied kid, resulting in the bully getting slammed against the lockers. Mark is sent to the principal's office, where he's chastised for his actions. Mark is a good student who really shouldn't be getting into fights. After all, he's not invincible. Or is he? Soon, there's another bank robbery going down. The bandits book it to their getaway vehicle, only to find it missing. It soon appears over their heads in the hands of the newest superhero on the block, Invincible. So what exactly is the backstory between Mark, a.k.a. Invincible, and Nolan, a.k.a. Omni-Man? Well, Omni-Man is a resident of the planet Viltrum, which he claims is a utopian society seeking to better the universe. To that extent, the Viltrumites have gone out into the galaxy to find planets who are on a similar technological/philosophical evolutionary path and beefing them up to be on par with Viltrum. They don't conquer, though. They are not out to conquer the universe at all. I'm pretty sure of it. When the Viltrumites came across Earth, many felt it was a little too backwards to bring in. There was one exception, Omni-Man. He lobbied to work alone on Earth to bring it up to snuff. The Viltrumite High Council agreed and dispatched Omni-Man to Earth. Soon he established himself as a superhero defending all on the planet. One day he came to the aid of a woman who was about to be hit by a car. That woman was Deborah, and the two fell in love, got married, and had Mark, while Omni-Man adopted the civilian guise of best-selling novelist Nolan Grayson. Now back to the story. One night, Mark heard a disturbance outside and took off Sans costume to investigate. He discovered a villain named Mauler burglarizing a nearby toy store. He tried to take the goon on, only for it to be halted by a blast from a team of teenage superheroes. Mauler elected to go after the team, which allowed Mark to drop him in one punch. Afterwards, one of the team members, Adam Eve, seemed to recognize Mark from somewhere. Again, he wasn't wearing a costume, and the others introduced themselves before leaving. The teen team consists of Adam Eve, a character we'll explain a little bit more later, Rexplode, who has the ability to heat any inorganic material up to the point of explosion, Duplicate, a character whose powers are pretty self-explanatory, and Robot, who's actually the avatar for a man being kept alive in a suspended animation tank. The next day at school, Mark meets up with Eve. As it turns out, they both had physics class together. The two bond, and she invites Mark back to the teen team's headquarters. The two duck behind a dumpster that's a little too rank for anyone to look behind in order to change in their costumes. Oh, get your mind out of the gutter. Adam Eve, real name Samantha Eve Wilkins, has the ability to alter material on an atomic level, so she just sort of beams her outfit on. Although it's weird that she doesn't wear a mask. And I know it seems like I haven't explained too deep into a lot of these characters, but a lot of that stuff comes up in later volumes, so we'll cover it then.
The two arrive at the Teen Team's headquarters where Robot informs them they tracked the whereabouts of Muller's employer. He joins Invincible and Eve on a job to track down Muller and his twin brother to a warehouse full of beings who seem to look a lot like Robot. Meanwhile, at the Twin Pines Mall, which seems to have recovered from Marty McFly causing it to be renamed the Lone Pine Mall in the movie Back to the Future, one of Mark and Eve's classmates wakes up on a bench. He doesn't know how he got there and soon discovers a device with a clock counting down to 0. Before anything else can happen, he explodes, taking them all with him.
I guess that makes it the No Pines Mall now.
More problems pop up as several more of Mark and Eve's classmates go missing. It's gotten so bad that each day has to open with an assembly to assure the students that everything will be okay. Mark isn't too broken up, though. In fact, he's actually relieved. The students in question weren't exactly the kindness Reginald VelJohnson High School had to offer.
Yeah, I kind of forgot to mention that Mark and Eve attend Reginald VelJohnson High School. You know, family matters.
Eve poo-poos Mark's dismissal by pointing out that none of the missing students were ever mean to her, to which Mark responds by pointing out there was probably a good reason for that, in that Eve is a very attractive young woman. While flattered, Eve quickly points out that she's in a relationship with Rex, and that leads to a very awkward lunch. After school, Mark goes to work at Burger Mart and subsequently quits his job after an argument with his manager. Mark never really needed the job, his family is pretty well off financially, and Nolan just wanted to build some character. Upon returning home, Nolan admits that Mark is in the hero game now, so the job was rather pointless. The two then go out for a father-son patrol. The two soon find themselves in the desert taking on an alien army. The beings appear to have mastered interdimensional travel, meaning they could just pop up from out of nowhere. However, it appears that exposure to Earth's atmosphere causes the aliens to rapidly age, and they are soon driven back. From there, it's off to another mall where, again, a teen has popped up with an explosive attached to him. Mark recognizes the young man as one of the missing classmates, but it's too late and Omni-Man has to launch him into the sky in order to minimize the damage. Things go from bad to worse as the extra-dimensional aliens pop up once more, grab Omni-Man, and return to their home dimension. Mark is forced to return home and tell his mother what happened. She puts a brave face on and tries to take everything in stride like she has so many times before. After dinner, Mark heads to Teen Team headquarters to find Eve. Robot informs Mark that Eve is out with Rex and reminds him that the two are in a relationship. He's also aware of the missing students after a DNA analysis of the No Pines Mall incident. Eve and Rex arrive with Robot planning to do more research, and he also instructs both Eve and Mark to keep their eyes open at school the next day. However, that's easier said than done, as Mark is more of a doer than he is a thinker. Making things worse, it seems that everyone in the school now believes that he and Eve are some type of couple, including his friend William and their physics teacher, Mr. Hiles. After class, Eve gets a call from Robot with some big news. Robot theorized the person behind the abduction/bombings must be an employee at VelJohnson High, given the fact the victims are all students there. A background check revealed only one possible candidate, Mr. Hiles, who was a former weapons engineer. Mark and Eve immediately rush over to the dumpster, only to find a couple making out. Once more being mistaken as a romantic pairing, the two are told to go find their own makeout spot. They manage to find another place to change into their costumes. The two arrive at Mr. Hiles' place, where he's been expecting some type of authority to arrive soon. He didn't expect his own students, though, as he's deduced their identities. Eve isn't even wearing a mask. Hiles explains that constant bullying led to his son's suicide and eventual dissolution of his marriage. Now he's seeking revenge on the teenage douchebags that bully good kids and destroy their shallow pursuits, like going to the mall.
Yeah, the fact that suddenly malls are really relevant now to high schoolers really dates this book, doesn't it?
Mr. Hiles then reveals he's already wired up another student named Derek. Of course, he has a backup plan as he's wired another explosive to himself and he'll go off in 39 seconds. With no other choice, Mark grabs Mr. Hiles and flies off. He carries his teacher all the way to the Antarctic and tosses him away just as the clock hits 0. Mark then returns to Eve as the EMTs take Derek away. His timer wasn't activated, so it won't go off. She informs him that Robot will be over to sweep the place for any hidden traps, but Mark is free to go. An exasperated Mark returns home, followed by Omni-Man, who's only been missing for a day, but looks like a month has gone by. After some showers and a shave, the family sits down to dinner, recapping the day's events.
And that concludes Invincible Volume 1, Family Matters. A good, fun, lighthearted story that I'm sure isn't going to take a dark and disturbing turn at all. So, overall, how was it? Well, I do really kind of like this book. I do like that it's a superhero book, but it also has kind of a slice of life angle to it. In fact, it really feels almost as much a Mark Grayson story as it does an Invincible story, with it focusing on Mark trying to balance his high school and hero life, his work in his hero life, and, not just him going out and beating up bad guys all the time. I also like that it sort of plays with the tropes. There's some really good characterization in this, like pointing out that Adam Eve doesn't have a mask, pointing out that superheroes need to go get their costumes professionally made sometimes, pointing out what the nature of Mark powers are and how they work or might not work, or what it could be expected of anyone. So I do kind of like a lot of that. And Mr. Hiles, he's the main villain, so I feel his motivations are sadly a little too relevant nowadays. Bullying, especially in the era of cyberbullying is now probably worse than it ever was. So you could probably see, well, maybe not the whole wiring people up as bombs part, but you could definitely see someone taking revenge for their child who took their life. So, yeah, it is, like I said, very relevant today. If I have one major complaint, though, I'm not the biggest fan of Cory Walker's artwork. It's passable most of the time, but it seems like whenever he's in a group shot, people suddenly all get little Lulu eyes out of nowhere, and it looks way too cartoony for the material to be. About halfway through the next story arc, he gets replaced by Ryan Ottley, and Ottley just kind of winds up surpassing Walker in terms of artwork. And it's nothing against Cory Walker, but it's just, I don't know if he was entirely suited for this type of material. So with that in mind, I am going to give Invincible Volume 1 Family Matters a B. I would have given it an A, but again, the artwork is still kind of choppy, and to be honest, I think it partners well when you read it with other story arcs down the line. So definitely pick up, say, this alongside maybe Volume 2. 8 is enough. And with that in mind, let's see what we're doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.